You're paying $1 trillion every year just to service the national debt. That's more than the entire defense budget combined. And the shocking part, it's happening right now. In the last 500 years, 4 empires truly ruled the world. Spain, the Dutch, Britain, the Soviets. All of them are gone, not toppled by invasion, not destroyed overnight. They fell because of patterns they couldn't see, mistakes they couldn't stop. Let's explore the 7 stages of empire decline, using America as a modern example, a lens to understand how these patterns repeat. Stage 1. Overextension. America has military bases in over 150 countries. It is no longer simply defending freedom. It is stretched thin. Resources drain faster than they can be replenished. Every new mission, every overseas operation adds pressure, and the costs keep rising. Stage 2. Fiscal crisis. The national debt now exceeds $38 trillion. Interest payments alone rival the entire defense budget. When an empire borrows from the future to pay for the present, cracks appear. The dollar, once unshakable, begins to show strain. Stage 3. Elite extraction. The top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. Factories slow. Infrastructure ages. Political influence is bought, not earned. The flow of resources moves upward, leaving society imbalanced. Stage 4. Social fracture. 74% of Americans say the country is on the wrong track. This isn't just disagreement, it's a society beginning to unravel. Trust weakens. Communities fray. The glue that holds everything together starts to crumble. Stage 5. Institutional decay. Congress approval sits at 19%. Trust in the media hovers around 32%. Voting feels almost meaningless. Institutions that once stabilized the empire now groan beneath inefficiency, corruption, and neglect. Stage 6. External shock pandemic. Supply chain collapse, inflation, all at once. Decades of weakness are suddenly visible to everyone. Crises don't topple empires, they reveal the cracks already there. Stage 7. Reserve currency loss. The US dollar still dominates at 58.9% of global reserves, but it has fallen steadily over the past decade. Even trusted partners like Saudi Arabia now accept yuan for oil. When the currency at the heart of an empire begins to wobble, influence wavers. The first signs of decline are already visible for those who know where to look. Before looking at what might happen next, let's step back and see how history has already played out. 4 empires, 4 rises, and 4 inevitable falls. Spain, drowning in its own gold. Spain once ruled half the known world. Fleets carried mountains of silver from the Americas, treasure so vast it felt endless. Ambition became a trap. Spain tried to rule everywhere, Europe, the Americas, Asia, and the burden grew too heavy. Wars drained the treasury faster than the New World could refill it. Palaces glimmered with gold, while industries slowed. Corruption seeped into every corner. The empire borrowed to maintain its reach, until bankers finally said no. The silver fleets didn't sink at sea, they sank under debt. Spain didn't fall in battle, it collapsed under its own excess. The Dutch, replaced by ambition. Then came a smaller, smarter empire, the Dutch. They didn't conquer with swords, they conquered with trade. The VOC became the world's first multinational corporation. Amsterdam turned into the beating heart of global finance. But success breeds comfort, and comfort breeds decline. The Dutch stretched from Indonesia to the Caribbean. Wars with England drained their gold. Bankers grew rich. Ordinary citizens carried the burden. Greed replaced innovation. The once brilliant VOC became slow, bloated, and arrogant. When Britain copied the playbook and executed it better, the Dutch lost control of the seas. Their navy faltered. Trade routes vanished. The guilder faded from global use. They weren't defeated in battle. They were quietly replaced. Britain, fading crown. Next came Britain. Factories roared. Ships crossed oceans. Made in Britain stamped the world. At its height, Britain ruled a quarter of humanity. Even giants, however, bleed when the cost of empire grows too heavy. Wars drained resources. Colonies that once paid now needed defending. Industry lagged behind rising powers. By 1945, Britain was tangled in debt. It borrowed from a younger ally to rebuild. The dollar replaced the pound as the world's reserve currency. Britain's financial crown slipped. The empire that once spanned the sun faded quietly. The Soviet Union, the red giant that burned out. Finally, the Soviet Union, a superpower built on ideology, military might and vast ambition. Millions of troops, nuclear weapons, territory spanning half the globe. Beneath the facade, cracks grew. Factories churned machines, not prosperity. Leaders lived in privilege. Citizens queued for bread. Then came the shocks. Oil prices collapsed, military quagmires, economic stagnation. The currency devalued. People turned to foreign money. The red flag came down, and not in battle, but in quiet surrender. The USSR didn't lose to an enemy. It lost to exhaustion. 4 empires, 4 stories, 1 pattern, different centuries, different ideologies, identical outcomes. They rose through purpose, they fell through excess, and now the world watches the next act. After World War II in 1945, the United States emerged as the dominant global power. The dollar became king. Trade routes, supply chains, and international agreements flowed through its orbit. American influence wasn't just military, it was economic, cultural, technological. The world watched, learned, copied. It was a golden age, the apex of global reach. Then 2001 arrived. 9/11 reshaped the world. 2 wars began almost simultaneously. Billions poured into overseas operations. Bases expanded to over 150 countries. Military commitments became global. Overextension quietly set in. Resources stretched thin. The empire was powerful, but overstretched. By 2010, wealth inequality skyrocketed. The top 1% controlled more than the bottom 90% combined. Factories slowed. Infrastructure aged. Political influence concentrated in fewer hands. Elite extraction was evident. By 2016, social tension became impossible to ignore. Surveys showed 74% of Americans thought the country was on the wrong track. Communities frayed, trust weakened, social fracture was visible everywhere. 2020 hit like a storm, a global pandemic. Supply chains collapsed. Inflation surged beyond 7%. External shocks exposed weaknesses long hidden. By 2022, subtle but seismic shifts appeared globally. Saudi Arabia accepted yuan for oil, a signal of changing financial tides. The dollar's share of global reserves fell to 58.9%, down from over 65% a decade ago. The national debt now exceeds $38 trillion. Interest payments alone could surpass the defense budget by 2028. The pattern is unmistakable. Overextension, fiscal strain, concentrated wealth, social fracture, institutional decay, shocks and currency pressure. The same cycle that toppled Spain, the Dutch, Britain and the Soviet Union is playing out in real time. Every empire believed it can't happen to us. They were wrong. History also shows hope. Rome survived reform. Britain innovated after financial strain. Even in decline, choices mattered. Leadership mattered. America stands at a crossroads. It can still adapt, reform, and survive. But the window is narrow. If leadership shares responsibility instead of hoarding power, invests in sustainable growth rather than perpetual borrowing, and rebuilds trust instead of deepening division. If citizens demand accountability, innovation, and unity, the next chapter can avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. Globally, the stage is shifting. China rises, patient and strategic, expanding influence through trade, technology, and diplomacy. Will it replace America or simply reshape the system itself? The outcome is not predetermined. It depends on decisions made today. Look closely at the numbers, the trends, the policies. The national debt, shrinking reserve dominance, social divisions, and external shocks all tell a story. History is a guide, not a sentence. The clock is ticking, and awareness is the first step. 4 empires fell. America stands at the next crossroads. Smash like if you see the repeating patterns. Comment your Stage 7 prediction. And if you want to go deeper, we're planning a series of videos diving into each empire individually. Spain, the empire of gold and excess. The Dutch, trade, innovation, and quiet replacement. Britain, the fading crown of industrial might. The Soviet Union, the red giant that burned out subscribed to join us on this journey. History repeats, but knowing the story gives you power to act. Don't just watch. Understand, reflect, and prepare.